Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jam Vishnu Pad Padamamsa Parvajacharya Asto Tarsata Sushimad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jam Vishnu Pad Padamamsa Parvajacharya Asto Tarsata Sushimad. Shringa Guru Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Brahmsago Shri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shyamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Jamunamai Gangamai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Their Divine Lordship Shri Shri Rukmini Dwarkadish Ki Jai. Their Divine Lordship Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Shrimati Subhadra Ki Jai. Their Divine Lordship Shri Shri Gaurnitai Ki Jai. Gaura Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the summer devotees Hari Krishna. All glories, Shri Shri Guru Shri Gauranga. Gaura Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jai. Hare Krishna. So today we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, chapter 32. And we're going to do text 33. And so as you see this image here, as you see like a prism, one light reflects many different aspects of colors in different directions. So we're going to talk about the unified perception of the divine today. So this verse 33 is going to help us understand the absolute truth. It has an extensive purport and it offers a really beautiful analogy that illuminates our understanding of the absolute truth and how different paths relate to it. So the core idea is that this single ultimate reality can be perceived and understood in various ways. Just like we see here this one light emanating in different colors and things like that. So this is what we're going to discuss today. So the verse, yathendriyaiḥ pṛthag-dvārair artho bahu-guṇāśrayaḥ eko nāneyate tadvad bhagavān śāstra-vartmabhiḥ yathendriyaiḥ pṛthag-dvārair artho bahu-guṇāśrayaḥ eko nāneyate tadvad bhagavān śāstra-vartmabhiḥ yathendriyaiḥ pṛthag-dvārair artho bahu-guṇāśrayaḥ eko nāneyate tadvad bhagavān śāstra-vartmabhiḥ tadvad bhagavān śāstra-vartmabhiḥ yathendriyaiḥ pṛthag-dvārair artho bahu-guṇāśrayaḥ eko nāneyate tadvad bhagavān śāstra-vartmabhiḥ. Vaishnavis. Yathendriyaiḥ pṛthag-dvārair artho bahu-guṇāśrayaḥ eko nāneyate tadvad bhagavān śāstra-vartmabhiḥ yathendriyaiḥ pṛthag-dvārair artho bahu-guṇāśrayaḥ eko nāneyate tadvad bhagavān śāstra-vartmabhiḥ yathendriyaiḥ pṛthag-dvārair artho bahu-guṇāśrayaḥ eko nāneyate tadvad Vartmatyam śāstra-vartmabhiḥ. Yata, as, indriyaiḥ, by the senses, pṛthag-dvārair, in different ways, artho, an object, bahu-guṇā, many qualities, āśrayaḥ, endowed with, ekaḥ, one, nāna, differently, iyate, is perceived, tadvat, similarly, bhagavān, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, śāstra-vartmabhiḥ, according to different scriptural injunctions. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. A single object is appreciated differently by different senses due to its having different qualities. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is one, but according to different scriptural injunctions, he appears to be different. Purport. It appears that by following the path of jñāna-yoga, or empiric philosophical speculation, one reaches the impersonal Brahman. Whereas by executing devotional service in Kṛṣṇa consciousness, one enriches his faith and devotion to the personality of Godhead. But it is stated here that both bhakti-yoga and jñāna-yoga are meant for reaching the same destination, the personality of Godhead. By the process of jñāna-yoga, the same personality of Godhead appears to be impersonal, as the same object appears to be different when perceived by different senses. The same Supreme Lord appears to be impersonal by mental speculation. A hill appears cloudy from a distance, and one who does not know may speculate that the hill is a cloud. Actually, it is not a cloud. It is a big hill. One has to learn from authority that the sight of a cloud is not actually a cloud, but a hill. If one makes a little more progress, then instead of a cloud, he sees the hill and something green. When one actually approaches the hill, he will see many varieties. Another example is in perceived milk. When we see milk, we see that it is white. When we taste it, it appears that milk is very palatable. When we touch milk, it appears very cold. When we smell milk, it appears to have a very good flavor. And when we hear, we understand that it is called milk. Perceiving the milk with different senses, we say that it is something white, something very delicious, something very aromatic, and so on. Actually, it is milk. Similarly, those who are trying to find the Supreme Personality of Godhead by mental speculation may approach the bodily effulgence, or the impersonal Brahman. And those who are trying to find the Supreme Godhead by yoga practice may find him as the localized Supersoul. But those who are directly trying to approach the Supreme Truth by practice of bhakti-yoga can see him face to face as the Supreme Person. Ultimately, the Supreme Person is the destination of all different processes. The fortunate person, who by following the principles of scriptures becomes completely purified of all material contamination, surrenders unto the Supreme Lord as everything. Just as one can appreciate the real taste of milk with the tongue and not with the eyes, nostrils, or ears, one can similarly appreciate the absolute truth perfectly and with all relishable pleasure only through one path, devotional service. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Bhaktyamam abhijananti. If one wants to understand the absolute truth in perfection, he must take to devotional service. Of course, no one can understand the absolute truth in all perfection. That is not possible for the infinitesimal living entities. But the highest point of understanding by the living entity is reached by discharge of devotional service, not otherwise. By following various scriptural paths, one may come to the impersonal effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The transcendental pleasure derived from merging with or understanding the impersonal Brahman is very extensive, because Brahman is ananta. Tad Brahma nishkalam anantam. Brahmananda is unlimited. But that unlimited pleasure can also be surpassed. That is the nature of transcendence. The unlimited can be surpassed also, and that higher platform is Kṛṣṇa. When one deals directly with Kṛṣṇa, the mallow and the humor relished by reciprocation of devotional service is incomparable, even with the pleasure derived from transcendental Brahman. Prabodhananda Saraswati therefore says that Kaivalya, the Brahman pleasure, is undoubtedly very great and is appreciated by many philosophers. But to a devotee who has understood how to derive pleasure from exchanging devotional service with the Lord, this unlimited Brahman appears to be hellish. One should try, therefore, to transcend even the Brahman pleasure in order to approach the position of dealing with Kṛṣṇa face to face. As the mind is the center of all the activities of the senses, Kṛṣṇa is called the master of the senses, Hrishikesha. The process is to fix the mind on Hrishikesha, or Kṛṣṇa, as Maharaj Ambarish did. Savai mana Kṛṣṇa padaravindayo. Bhakti is the basic principle of all processes. Without bhakti, neither jñāna-yoga nor astanga-yoga can be successful. And unless one approaches Kṛṣṇa, the principles of self-realization have no ultimate destination. Jai. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshus Unmilitamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitamena Bhutale Swayam Upagata Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Jai Shri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Kṛṣṇa Hare Kṛṣṇa 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namo Vishnupadaya Kṛṣṇa Pristaya Bhutale Shrimati Jai Pataka Swamini Tinamane Namacharya Pradayane Nitya Kripa Padayane Gorakate Damanara Nagur Grama Tarne. Namo Vishnupadaya Kṛṣṇa Pristaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tinamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschajati Satadine Vanchakopa Tubhischa Kripa Sindhu Vivacha Patitanam Pavinebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Okay, so I'll repeat the verse again a little later here, but I just want to kind of show a overview that we get from the Subodhini, Srimad Bhagavatam Subodhini by Gaudacandra Prabhu. And so we're in this entanglement in fruitive activities chapter. Excuse me. And we're in this section here at verses 32 to 36. And this is where it shows the various paths ultimately to realize bhagavān. And so this section here it shows that we have one Lord, but it's perceived differently, through different scriptural practices. So that's what's involved here is we have jñāna-yoga. It's the philosophical study that involves very deep thinking and research, as we heard about yesterday. And it takes many lifetimes, actually. And it's a rare soul to understand God, that is a person, and to surrender to Him. So it's a very difficult practice compared to bhakti. And then there's the mystic yoga process, which is the astanga yoga. And this uses meditation, physical, mental practices to achieve God in the heart. And that involves controlling the senses through various techniques, and it can lead to higher planets even. But liberation isn't immediate. So it's also troublesome compared to devotion. And then we have the third path, which is bhakti-yoga. It's the most direct path to realize God as a person. And it's like, we'll see an analogy, it's like the main river flowing to the ocean, while all the other paths are just like tributaries, that lead into that one path. But the devotee, he automatically develops knowledge, detachment, without separate practice. So it involves the 9 processes of hearing, chanting, remembering, it's given the Sanskrit, worshiping and serving God. So and that allows you to see God face to face. And so, and we get free from material contamination also. And it appears just like so easy. It's like a regular activity of what we do. We get purified. So it's amazing. So that's the key point, is that these other scriptural studies like charity, meditation, even social duties, they will only work if it's mixed with devotional service. And without devotion, they can't achieve this ultimate goal, which is seeing God as a person. So here we go. Let's See here, it's a single truth perceived variously. So as we saw the gem, it's a single multifaceted gem or diamond. It reflects light, different colors, different directions. So the core idea is in the translation. We'll just repeat that. A single object is appreciated differently by different senses due to its having different qualities. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is one, but according to different scriptural injunctions, he appears to be different. So this is a very powerful analogy. It explains how that singular object, the absolute truth, bhagavān, it can be realized in diverse ways. So we see here this text 33, Lord Kapila, his providing a key insight to his mother, that he is one, but is perceived differently. And so I think the purpose of the analogy is to illustrate the verse by using the example of a single object having many qualities, as we see here. And it helps us grasp how various spiritual practices, which are described as different scriptural injunctions, that they can lead to different paths, or different paths. They can lead to different understandings, but ultimately the same end, which is to connect to bhagavān, that one object. And that's the goal. So that's the core idea today. So the analogy used, this is part one, which is the milk. It shows us the partial perception by the individual senses. So the image here, we're trying to perceive milk. You see here the nose, it smells the milk and it smells pretty aromatic. And then you touch it, it may feel cold or hot. And then you taste it and pretty tasty. And then you can see it, it's white, right? Or maybe if you put different spices, it could be yellow or some other color, but it's normally white. And then you hear the sound, someone tells you, that's milk. Okay, well that's milk. So we see the senses, they can encounter this object, milk. You know, all the senses are independently operating, right? So the eyes tell us it's white, the tongue tells us something different. But if you just look at milk, you wouldn't know how it tastes or it smells, right? And if you only tasted it, you wouldn't know its color. So this is an individual sense limitation. So each sense is operating through a particular path. And it perceives only the specific quality of milk, not the whole substance itself. So this illustrates how a single object, you know, and how we see it, it doesn't reveal the whole picture. It's incomplete. So that's so there's another analogy here, and this is material perception, part 2, the hill. So this is also discussed in the purport. So this is the concept of distance or proximity in perception, right? So you consider a hill, so we see the impersonal to personal, right? So from afar, this hill, you can see it looks kind of like a formless cloud, indistinct mass, and that represents the impersonal understanding. But as you get closer, you see more detail, like you can see the green, you begin to see some more details, different patches, it's more localized, but still, you see, as you don't get a complete view until you actually approach it like this, and you see the full reality, so many varieties, trees, rocks, wildlife. You even may hear some music, so there might be some people there, you know, doing something like that. So we can see here. So this sets the stage for understanding how spiritual realization, it can be partial or complete, depending on our depth of engagement, how deep you go. So we have to dive deep. So here's the another, this is called the mind, the complete material perception. So the mind is actually the king of all the senses, and it helps us give a complete understanding. So as we saw there, while the individual senses, they perceive separately, right? But the mind, being the king of the senses, it perceives the object in its entirety. It just brings everything in. And the mind, it understands milk as, this substance is giving pleasure, satisfaction. It's white, it's sweet, it's cool, it's fragrant. It's called milk. So the mind sees all that, right? So it simultaneously grasps all the qualities, forming a complete picture. So that's the mind's role. You see, not like the individual senses, but it acts as the king of the senses, and it integrates everything. So the understanding that we get is that it combines all those senses, the eyes, tongue, nose, ears, to form a complete understanding of the milk. And so, what's the spirituality? So the ability of the mind to perceive an object in its entirety is crucial. And it directly parallels to our spiritual path. And that allows a complete realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is what we see, the mind is like that. It represents the complete realization of Kṛṣṇa. And here's the analogy that we have in the Bhagavad Gita. It's described there. This is in the purport to 634. Srila Prabhupada quotes the Katha Upanishad. And it kind of starts out like, Atmanam ratim vidhi, sariram ratam evacha, buddhim tu saratam vidhi, mana pragaham evacha. So it goes on and on. There's like 2 or 3 verses there. But here's the translation Prabhupada gives in quotes. The individual is the passenger in the car of the material body, and intelligence is the driver. Mind is a driving instrument, and the senses are the horses. The self is thus the enjoyer or the sufferer in the association of the mind and senses. So it is understood by great thinkers. So we see here intelligence, as you see there, is supposed to direct the mind. But sometimes the mind is so strong and powerful and obstinate that it overcomes even our own intelligence, right? And as an acute infection, it may even surpass the efficacy of medicine. So the mind is so strong, and it's supposed to be controlled by this practice of yoga. But such practice is never practical for a worldly person like Arjuna. And what to speak of the modern man. You see, so the simile here is that it's very appropriate that we can't capture the blowing wind. And it is even more difficult to capture the turbulent mind. So just see the power of the mind. But Lord Chaitanya suggests how? By chanting Hare Krishna, the great mantra for deliverance in all humility. And so it's described, and Prabhupada quotes the 9th canto in that purport, from Maharaj Ambarish. Savaya mana Krishna padada vindayo. That we must engage the mind fully in Kṛṣṇa, and only then will the mind have no engagement to agitate itself. Okay, so we're going to go to our spiritual realizations now. One of the partial views is this jñāna-yoga. Okay, so this is what happens is that we have this research, and it's compared to seeing the white of milk only, or the hill as a cloud from a distance. And so the Lord's effulgence, or all-pervading, formless, this is his aspect. But in the Ishopanishad, it gives us a golden covering prayer. And let's chant that prayer together. Can you see that okay? It's a beautiful prayer. Okay, let's go. Hiranyamayena patrena satyasyapi hitam mukham tattvam purusham aparinu satya dharmaya drishtaye. And the translation, O my Lord, sustainer of all that lives, your real face is covered by your dazzling effulgence. Kindly remove that covering and exhibit yourself to your pure devotee. So isn't that nice? So we see the personal effulgence you see there is covering Kṛṣṇa. It's like a blinding light, or a veil you could see. And so that's the Brahman realization. And then we'll go on to the Paramatma, which is Supersoul, and then bhagavān. So we'll see. But what happens is, the problem is that most seekers, they get stuck in seeing only God's brilliant light, the Brahman. That's the problem. And they never see his actual personal form behind it. It's like being blinded by the sun, or missing the person holding the lamp, right? So that's it. So this is what's happening. So Kṛṣṇa's role, he's the source of everything. He's the source of the brilliant effulgence and the person behind it. So that's Kṛṣṇa. And so through his different expansions, he has different relationships with his different devotees. And there's different hierarchies, how you go through these partial limitations to the actual personality. So this is the other partial view, realizing the localized Paramatma through Ashtanga-yoga. So this is what happens, is they may realize Kṛṣṇa as a localized Paramatma in the heart. And it's like the sweetness of milk, right? Or seeing something green. So you're getting a little closer, you're getting more understanding of what it is. But it's still a partial representation. You understand the Lord is all pervading, all living entities, but it's not his full form. So this is the Ashtanga Yoga process. It's a partial perception still. So, and it doesn't reveal the Supreme Lord in full personal form. The yogi, as you can see here, may see the four-handed form in the heart, but the Lord still remains invisible, in his most complete form to them. So these yogis, they actually are subjected to return to the material world if they're not directly devotees. So the next one, the spiritual realization, here's the complete bhagavān, the complete view, is bhakti-yoga. So this is devotional service. It's compared to the mind, as we said, remember, because it enables the perception of the absolute truth in its full, as bhagavān is the object of our prema, the object of our love. And it includes all the other forms. And he gives all the results. So this is bhakti. So devotional service, how it's uniquely compared to the mind. It integrates all the different senses, the inputs for material perception. So bhakti enables the complete realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we get that full, direct perception. Instead of actually seeing the cloud or the green, we actually see all the varieties in the hill. We see a person face to face there, and we can have a relationship with them. We could serve him, and we could love him. So that we see here, Bhagavan is the reservoir of all pleasure. He's full in all his 6 opulences, which are wealth, knowledge, yes, and joy. Oh, you guys are still awake. Thank you. Okay, so so this is his sweetness, his madhurya. Okay, so here, there's actually a hierarchy, right? So the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's the ultimate destination, bhagavān. So he says, I'm the basis of all these things. And so we see here, we saw devotees, yogis meditating on the Supersoul, some devotees meditating on the Brahman. We see other devotees, engaged in service. You see, all of these are, but we see the completeness is through bhakti as you gradually gain higher and higher realms. So you get closer and closer to Kṛṣṇa as you, develop bhakti in whatever you're doing. So there's another analogy. It's called the angi concept and the angas. I don't know if you ever heard of that. But it's Bhagavan as the body and everything else as the limbs of Kṛṣṇa, right? So this is that analogy that's described is the angi, which means the body or the principal quality. Same thing like a tree is the angi. And then there's the angas, which are the branches. Or like the body, and then there's the arms and the different qualities. So bhagavān is the angi. We see here the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And all the things emanating from him, like the impersonal Brahman, all the different expansions, they're like his angas, his different limbs, or their dependent qualities, you see. So this gives us that complete understanding. So this is bhagavān. So Brahman is not the complete tattva, a truth in itself. It's described as a quality or an effulgence that depends on bhagavān, right? Just as light from fire, it's a quality dependent on fire itself. So it shows that the Brahmans, it's dependent on the transcendental form of bhagavān. So even jnana, like knowledge, is called manista, fixed in me. And Brahman is contained in bhagavān. So this is the superiority of bhagavān. It reinforces all these things. And it gives us a valid realization of Kṛṣṇa, the complete understanding. Okay, so here we see the catalyst, bhakti. It's the catalyst for all spiritual endeavors. So there's various paths mentioned, like sacrifices, charity, austerities, Vedic study, whatever your service is, research, mind, sense control, renunciation, yoga. So all these activities must be mixed with devotional service, right? And this is what the devotees do. They're engaging just like anyone else in different duties, different talents, different responsibilities, but it's all mixed with bhakti. So this is how bhakti-yogena chaivahi, and that produces the desired result. So there's quite an array of spiritual activities that we can perform as whatever ashram we're in or whatever we're doing, but bhakti is the crucial point. So it's for the sake of satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here's another analogy. Showing why bhakti is supreme. And here the flowing river we see, it represents bhakti, as we mentioned, and there's different smaller streams, like other paths, they feed into it, right? And they all lead to this vast, clear ocean, which is bhagavān. So this bhakti allows us to understand the Supreme Lord as he is, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is the direct contact. The devotees can actually see the Lord face to face, unlike the jnanis or the yogis. And he automatically develops this pure devotional service. So this is the key to knowing God, as Prabhupada quoted this verse in the purport. We could chant this together. Can you see it okay? Yeah. So, bhaktyamam abhijananti yavanyas chasmi tatvataha tatomam tatvato gyatva visate tad anantaram. One can understand me as I am, as a Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me, by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Wow, so we see all these different practices. So what does entering the kingdom of God really mean? It means not merging into the impersonal light. It means not becoming one with God like a river merging into the ocean. And yes, it means entering God's spiritual abode while maintaining your individuality. And yes, it's like a bird entering a tree to enjoy its fruits while remaining a distinct bird in that tree. And so what's the process? It's in the purport to that verse, Srila Prabhupada explains that it begins with hearing about the Lord with devotion. And these material desires like greed, lust, they'll all automatically disappear. and attachment to God will increase. And we'll get free from material contamination, and we'll get true understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's the bottom line. You can only know God through love, through bhakti, not through books or meditation alone. And when you know Him in this way, then you enter an eternal relationship with Him. So here's our relevance for today. So navigating diverse spiritual views. So I think these analogies help us understand how we can navigate these different views. So there's in a world we can see so many different spiritual beliefs. And it helps us understand how different traditions might be perceived with the aspect of the same absolute truth. Why some seek the impersonal God, why some seek a personal God. And, they're simply perceiving different features from different distances. So this is today. We see it happening. So I think this verse today, 33, it provides that framework for understanding this variety. Different perspectives on one reality. We can see so many varieties of ideas all coming together with the same goal. So what's the full understanding? This is what we're pursuing. It's like a puzzle, we have a partially completed puzzle with a few pieces ready to be placed, to symbolize completion. So modern life encourages superficial engagement or fragmented understanding. And I think this analogy helps teach us the importance of not settling for partial truths or limited experiences, when the complete can deeply satisfy one. Just knowing the color of milk is not enough, or just tasting it is not enough. So there's a simple solution that's given by Srila Prabhupada, and this is what it says here. But before that, I'd like to read this one verse this is a lecture from Srila Prabhupada in 1967, because we're calling to complete this puzzle, right? And the achievement is that we get direct engagement with Kṛṣṇa. So Prabhupada said this: so this Kṛṣṇa consciousness is direct engagement of spiritual activities. This is the concession. This is the concession of this age. We have got very little opportunity in the present age to meditate. It is very difficult. The so-called meditation for 15 minutes and 23 hours, all kinds of nonsense activities, will never help you. Therefore, meditation is out of the question at the present age. I am not speaking from my own whims. It is stated in the Shastras. In the Shastra, it is said that Krite ya dayato Vishnu. So what's that solution? This is it here. This is the verse Srila Prabhupada says. So we could chant it together if you want. This is from the 12th canto, 352. Krite ya dayato Vishnum, Tretayam yajato mukai, Dvārpare paricharyayam, Kalo tadvari kirtanat. So what's the translation? Whatever result was obtained in Satya Yuga by meditation on Vishnu, in Treta Yuga by performing sacrifices, and in Dwapara Yuga by serving the Lord's lotus feet, can be obtained in Kali Yuga simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. So we're almost here. We're almost finished here. So the bottom line here is that, what once required years of training, elaborate rituals, or intense meditation, it can be achieved by anyone, anywhere, simply by chanting Hare Krishna. So, and then what's the power? The couple more slides is the relevance for today portion here. The path to deep devotion, I think, it's all about connection, I think, developing relationships. So this is the comparison of bhakti to the mind, right? It highlights that loving devotion, a personal relationship with the divine, provides the most comprehensive, relishable experience. And that resonates with our universal human desire is to have a connection, a personal fulfillment. We all want that, right? So this is what we want, is that human connection, and Kṛṣṇa provides that. He comes and he personally is interested in us. He wants to help us. He wants to bring us back home, back to Godhead, even more than we want to go back. So that's the path. So the relevance also today is that we have to avoid misconception and the lost intelligence. We have to beware of superficiality, in this world today. So there's many warnings about misguided paths, prioritizing material gains, as it in the beginning of this chapter talked about the grihamatis and the grihastas, don't become materialistic, infatuated by lust. So these paths are very dangerous. So we have to have this spiritual intelligence that lead us on the direct path of devotional service. And so the elevation of all activities through devotion is to integrate all these spiritual practices, as we see here. The highest purpose is this verse. We'll chant together, but it's okay. I only got a couple more, sorry. So the verse is, Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir hoksaje ahoitikiya pratihata yatma suprasidati. So this is our supreme occupation, the highest purpose. For all humanity is that which awakens causes in uninterrupted loving devotional service to the transcendent Lord. Only this can completely satisfy the soul. So that's the complete translation there. I'll just kind of give you a summary. So this is devotional service. That's our highest purpose, brings lasting fulfillment, and it connects us to our eternal spiritual identity. So the complete science of devotional service, as we Prabhupada quoted, was Maharaj Ambarish, and he reveals the blueprint. And this is the blueprint he talks about. What did he do? We talked about mind. He meditated that on Krishna's lotus feet. Speech, the tongue describing Krishna's glories, tasting his prasadam. Hands cleaning Krishna's temple. The ears hearing about Kṛṣṇa. The eyes seeing Krishna's deity, temples, holy places. The touch, touching devotees' bodies. Smelling tulsi offered to Kṛṣṇa, the flowers. Tongue, tasting Krishna's prasad. And legs walking to the holy places. The head bowing before Kṛṣṇa, and all desires serving Kṛṣṇa 24/7. So this is Ambarish Maharaj's example for us to follow. So to engage in Kṛṣṇa consciousness. So instead of fighting your material nature, we transform it. Every sense, every activity, every moment can be spiritualized into Kṛṣṇa consciousness. So this is the last slide, the conclusion, the path to complete realization. And so this is Kṛṣṇa, even though there's diverse journeys, but the most fulfilling, the complete understanding is service to Kṛṣṇa. And Kṛṣṇa is actually calling us. He wants us to come nearer and nearer to him. So this is the process. Kṛṣṇa is attracting us because he is the most attractive. And we're part and parcel of him, so we're meant to serve him. Like the mind actually integrates all the senses, Kṛṣṇa integrates us into his devotional service. So just kind of a recap, we explored how the Absolute Truth, even though it's one, he can be perceived in various ways, ranging from the impersonal Brahman to the localized aspect, Paramatma, to Brahman, to bhagavān. So this is described. So this is the zenith of realization, to see Kṛṣṇa, to have that path toward him. So we should take this advice from Lord Kapila to his mother and take direct shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through devotional service, because it's the most worthwhile and direct path to liberation. It's eternal, blissful life. So we see this verse today provided the framework for deep fulfillment and conscious engagement with the world, with Kṛṣṇa in the forefront. So I'll end there and open up for any comments, questions, realizations. Yes, Prabhu. Does anyone know how to get the mic? Jai. Thank you, Prabhu.
Jai Gaudacandra Prabhu, thank you for your wonderful presentation. Very nice explained.
Thank you.
So, as you were mentioned, all these different paths help us to realize different aspects of the absolute truth. So, but all these different paths, what they have in common is they are within the Vedic system, so within the Vedic understanding. So, what about paths that are not within the Vedic system and are not their belief or their system or knowledge, whatever, is not in aligned with the Siddhanta? So are those paths also take us to some type of realization of the absolute truth, or they have to ultimately, have some touch or contact with the Vedic system in order to be ourselves elevated?
Yeah, that's why I show this particular image, is that all these scriptures that we're reading, they warn us that materialistic worship or impersonal speculation, it can stem from lost intelligence, and it's considered to be rascaldom. So we're cautioned to and warned against these different approaches, because they actually reduce our spiritual practices. And we see here, you just get lost. They lead to a dead end, you see. And so they're misguided paths, and they should be avoided. Yeah, so. Because why? They prioritize sense gratification, economic development, through ritualistic rituals, rather than seeking self-realization and liberation. So they just completely lost their intelligence, and they could just continue to cycle in the repetitions of birth and death. So, thank you, Prabhu. Any other comments or questions? Realizations? Oh, yes.
Thank you for a wonderful class, as usual. My question is, what's the difference between devotional service and pure devotional service?
Well, there's Sudha Bhakti, and there's Bhakti, I guess you could say. There's Bhakti in practice. Like when you first come to a temple, you see Kṛṣṇa. You don't know anything about Kṛṣṇa, but you see him. And that's Bhakti. You taste prasadam. That's the first time you ever take a prasadam. Wow! What is that? That's Bhakti. Devotional service. So it's automatically a process of purification. And then when you become supremely pure, then you get pure Bhakti. And you actually you develop that love for Kṛṣṇa, and you actually see Kṛṣṇa, the bhagavān aspect. And that's the path of Bhakti, leads to pure Bhakti. Yeah. You're on the path. We're on the path. So, yes?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for
Hare
the
Krishna.
nice class. So, can you speak more on Krishna's expansions? They're compared to our senses.
Mm-hmm.
Our senses are they're limited to what one sense can do. So, are Krishna's expansions like this, or are they different?
Yeah, as this analogy we used, like Krishna is the Angi, and everything coming from, like he's the body, the bhagavān, and then anything coming from him are the Angas, right? So as we see, Krishna is that source of everything, and you see the impersonal rays, you see all the different expansions and everything. They're all the Angas, the limbs of Krishna, because they're dependent on Krishna. They come from Krishna, even though they may be as powerful. Does that help? What was your question again?
Well, our senses are limited.
Right.
So are Krishna's expansions also limited to to their form, their expansion?
Yeah, in that sense that they're Angas, they're limited. Because Krishna is the unlimited. Even though he has unlimited aspects like his impersonal Brahman, it's unlimited. But yet, as we read in the purport, you can actually go beyond the unlimited, which is Krishna. It's amazing. When I first heard that, that's really amazing. So in that sense, they're limited, yeah. Even the unlimited is limited. So, yeah. Krishna's the ultimate. Well, thank you. A nice question. Any other comments, questions? Okay, thank you very much for your kind attention. All glories to Srimad Bhagavatam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Oh yeah, sure. You're going to give it to your family?